Chosen one, the time has come. The 16th of August is not just another date on a calendar. It is a divine appointment, a moment written before time itself, a crossing like when Israel stood at the edge of the Jordan River. It is that holy pause between wilderness and promise, where heaven leans close, where the unseen shifts. What feels ordinary in the natural is monumental in the spirit. On this day, the Most High does not measure words or appearances. He searches the heart. He examines not what you show, but what you carry when no one is watching. This moment is not about speech. It is about spirit. Not about noise. It is about knowing. The Lord is positioning you for something greater, and the preparation will not come wrapped in comfort. For as it is written, "Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." The refining does not arrive through storms that rage in the open. It comes quietly, through the words of those closest to you. It comes through a conversation that cuts deeper than expected, through the tone of a friend, the reaction of a parent, the silence of a partner. God uses the familiar to reveal the hidden. He allows what feels personal to serve a higher purpose. The pain is not punishment, it is purification. This test is not about proving a point, it is about surrendering your pride. When misunderstanding rises, do not defend yourself. Stay still. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Let your faith speak louder than your voice. Stand as Daniel stood in the lion's den, not in panic, but in peace. True strength is not proven by reaction, but by restraint. So when your spirit feels the weight of this calling, know that heaven has already written your name upon this hour. You were chosen not for comfort, but for clarity. This is the threshold of transformation. Stay until the end. For what begins as testing will close in prayer, and what begins in silence will end in strength. The test will not come in thunder or flashing signs. It will hide in the ordinary, in the small exchanges that feel routine, in the tone that stings without warning. That is what makes it sacred. Heaven often hides destiny in the mundane. What comes dressed as ordinary often carries the weight of eternity. The greatest attacks are rarely loud. They blend in, soft and familiar, stealing your peace, one subtle word at a time. The enemy does not always come swinging. Often, he only needs to shift your attention. If he can steal your peace, he can delay your purpose. Scripture says, "Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards." It is not always explosions that destroy growth. It is the small compromises, the quiet offenses, the unchecked emotions. That is why what you choose to say or not to say on this appointed day matters. You are not just reacting to words, you are revealing your spirit. Silence is not emptiness, it is alignment. Even fools, Scripture says, are thought wise when they remain silent. Sometimes the holiest response is to say nothing at all, not out of avoidance, but out of spiritual awareness. Think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In the furnace, they did not shout to prove faith. Their quiet trust became testimony. Think of David, cornered by Saul. He could have struck, but he chose restraint. That was not weakness. It was consecration. Now the same choice lies before you. You may feel triggered, tempted to explain, to correct, to defend. But pause and ask, is this moment about being heard or about being refined? The enemy's greatest weapon is distraction. Like Sanballat calling Nehemiah down from the wall, he whispers to pull you from your purpose. But Nehemiah said, "I am doing a great work and cannot come down." That is the posture you must keep. In quietness and trust is your strength. This is not a trap. It is a trust. Heaven is not testing you to expose weakness, but to reveal wisdom. The reward comes not through reaction, but through revelation. The true battle is not in what is said to you, but in what stirs within you. Let your peace preach. Let your silence speak. Let your restraint roar louder than your words ever could. For when God allows someone to press a painful button, it is not because he wants to wound you. It is because he trusts you. He knows you are ready to respond differently than before. A year ago, you might have answered in anger. Today, heaven watches as you choose peace. This is not about them. It is about you. It is heaven's mirror held up to your spirit. Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Your reaction reveals your wounds. Your stillness reveals your healing. Think of Joseph, betrayed, sold, forgotten, yet when power rested in his hands, he forgave. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. His silence was not weakness, it was strategy. So when this appointed time brings tension, pause. What feels like conflict is not chaos, it is construction. The friction is building the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. This is the day to release the need to be understood. Stop explaining divine purpose to those who were never meant to grasp it. Not everyone deserves access to your peace. Your reaction is a declaration. Let it say, I trust the Lord more than I trust my emotions. Let your stillness testify, I am no longer the same. Peace is not passive, it is power under control, and the ones closest to you may test it most. But that is why your stillness matters. You are not being provoked, you are being promoted. The pressure is not punishment, it is preparation. If this day feels heavy, if emotion stirs without clear reason, it is because you are standing in a spiritual turning point. The unseen realm is shifting. You can feel it, not in the noise, but in your spirit. God is bringing hidden things to light, not to break you, but to bring you into truth. He reveals the deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. What you feel is not random, it is revelation. The Spirit of God is stirring places you thought were healed. He is revealing where trust still trembles, where pride still hides, where love still limps. He is showing you how far you've come, and what must still be surrendered. This moment is not about what others do or say. It is about your response. The storm outside reveals the foundation within. Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The winds will blow, but if you are rooted, you will not be moved. Sometimes the heaviness comes before the test even begins. You feel tension in your chest, a stirring in your spirit, like something unseen pressing close. That's not fear, it's discernment. You're not just entering another day, you're stepping into a spiritual checkpoint. What happens next will determine whether you repeat old wounds or walk into new wisdom. When the urge to explain swells, breathe. When emotion rises, pause. This is not suppression, it is sanctification. God is lifting from you the weight of what no longer belongs. The pressure you feel is the hand of the potter shaping clay for purpose. What feels like testing is actually trust. The divine is asking, can you stay still when everything inside you wants to speak? Can you choose peace when pride demands a response? The one who can master silence in the storm becomes a vessel that carries peace into every season. You are not being attacked. You are being trusted with transformation. So when the atmosphere feels thick and conversations sting, remember this: you are not losing control. you are gaining clarity. The people around you are not your problem. They are your practice. Every word, every glance, every misunderstanding is a brushstroke on the canvas of refinement. This is not about proving who you are. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be. You are not the version who begged to be heard. You are not the one who over-explained your worth. You are the one who has learned that silence is sacred, that peace is power, that stillness is strategy. When heaven calls for silence, it is not to hide you, it is to anoint you. And in that quiet, unseen place, everything begins to shift. When the night before the sacred day fades and the world awakens unaware of what heaven has marked, a quiet tension lingers in the air. The light of dawn seems softer, the air heavier, as though creation itself knows that something unseen is unfolding. You, chosen one, can feel it even before words are spoken. There is a stirring in your chest, a subtle awareness that ordinary hours are now holy ground. This is not imagination. This is the Spirit's whisper calling your attention to what the natural eye cannot see. Every test sent your way is not random. It is orchestration. The divine has arranged a moment where the external mirrors the internal, where your environment becomes the stage upon which your character is revealed and refined. Heaven is watching not to condemn, but to confirm that you are ready to carry the promise entrusted to you. As you move through the hours of this appointed day, you may notice that familiar conversations carry unfamiliar weight. The voice of a loved one might sound sharper than usual, or a casual remark might press against an old wound. These are not coincidences. They are calibrations. The Most High is revealing what still lives within you that cannot cross into your next season. This is the sacred surgery of the soul, the invisible cleansing that precedes elevation. The hands of the potter are steady, and though the shaping may sting, it is love that guides the pressure. Every emotion that rises, every thought that burns for expression is part of this refining fire. You are not meant to escape it. You are meant to endure it with grace. Remember, chosen one, that the greatest transformations do not occur in comfort. They are birthed in tension. When your peace is challenged, when your patience is stretched thin, when you long to speak yet sense the divine urging you to stay silent, that is the moment where growth begins. It is in the pause between impulse and response that heaven measures maturity. For silence, when chosen with awareness, is not absence, it is mastery. It is the mark of one who no longer lives by reaction, but by revelation. Scripture says, "Be still, and know that I am God." That knowing is not intellectual, it is spiritual. To be still is to trust that divine justice moves even when you do not. The atmosphere around you may begin to reveal hidden currents. Old memories surface not to haunt you, but to heal you. People may say things that echo voices from your past, voices that once defined you, diminished you, or doubted you. But now, instead of reacting, you recognize the pattern. You sense that this is not the same battlefield. This is the final exam before promotion. The divine does not test you to break you. He tests to show you the strength he already placed within you. The test is not about endurance, it is about discernment. Will you recognize what is happening beneath the surface, or will you get caught in the surface storm? When the urge to defend your heart rises, pause. When anger flares, breathe. When pride whispers that silence looks weak, remember the Lamb before Pilate. He spoke not a word, for his power was not in argument, but in awareness. His silence was not surrender to men. It was submission to destiny. That same strength now calls to you. You are not being asked to be passive, you are being invited to embody divine restraint. The spiritual realm responds to stillness more than to shouting, for silence rooted in faith carries the vibration of authority. The enemy thrives in reaction, but he trembles in the face of calm certainty. When you refuse to feed chaos, you starve it of power. As the day unfolds, you will notice moments where peace seems to hang by a thread. Someone might misunderstand your intentions. A familiar frustration might return. It will feel like pressure closing in, but in truth, it is invitation. The Spirit is whispering, "This is where you rise." Rise, not with volume, but with vision. Rise, not with retaliation, but with revelation. Each unspoken word becomes a seed of wisdom sown into your future. Each breath of restraint becomes armor for what's ahead. The weight you feel is not the burden of defeat. It is the weight of responsibility. Heaven does not trust fragile vessels with eternal assignments. You are being strengthened in silence, so that when your voice returns, it will carry the tone of heaven. In this sacred stillness, you begin to perceive the difference between reaction and revelation. Reaction is born from pain. Revelation is born from presence. Reaction feeds the wound. Revelation heals it. Reaction seeks validation. Revelation seeks understanding. And in this divine classroom, every unspoken response is a declaration that you have matured. You are no longer the one who rushes to be understood. You are the one who understands that not every soul can hear truth at its depth. The need to explain fades as confidence in divine timing grows. You realize that silence does not mean defeat. It means discipline. It means you have shifted from defending yourself to allowing God to define you. Even the environment around you begins to change. The people who once triggered pain now become mirrors reflecting your progress. The same words that once wounded you now meet a healed heart. You start to feel a stillness rising within, a quiet awareness that peace is not found by escaping conflict, but by walking through it with composure. And as you stand in that sacred quiet, heaven records your response. Angels witness your restraint, and in the unseen realm, chains begin to fall. You are no longer fighting flesh and blood. You are aligning spirit and purpose. The old patterns lose power, not because they disappeared, but because you no longer feed them. It is then that revelation deepens. You begin to understand that silence is not just an action, it is a spiritual weapon. When you hold your peace, you allow divine justice to take the front line. The Lord says, "Vengeance is mine." The moment you refuse to react, you place the battle back in His hands, and heaven, seeing your surrender, moves swiftly. What once felt like loss begins to unfold as strategy. What seemed like silence becomes the sound of strength. Heaven fights for those who trust without trembling. And while the world measures power by words, the divine measures it by stillness. Do not mistake the quiet for absence. The absence of noise is the space where the voice of God echoes most clearly. When the world grows loud and distractions rise like waves, you will find Him in the calm beneath. There, in the stillness, your faith becomes sharpened. You begin to discern not through panic, but through peace. The Spirit teaches you to hear beyond words, to feel beyond appearances, to see the unseen. What others interpret as hesitation is, in truth, holy discernment. You are no longer rushed by emotion. You are ruled by understanding. If you sense the air growing heavy, if emotions swell like tides, it is because the unseen realm is close. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more the atmosphere resists. Do not fear this resistance. It is the signal of your ascension. Every pressure Every misunderstanding, every unspoken pain is birthing spiritual authority within you. The old version of you would have sought to explain, to justify, to prove. But now, you simply rest. You are not avoiding the battle. You are transcending it. You have learned that true strength is quiet, that real victory is often invisible until the storm passes. And when it does, when silence has done its work, you will feel a shift, a lightness, a release. You will realize that what you thought was testing was actually training. The divine was teaching you to carry peace into places where chaos reigned. You were being prepared not to speak louder, but to walk deeper. You were being shaped into a vessel that can hold both grace and authority without spilling either. When you master silence, you master self. And when you master self, heaven entrusts you with influence that cannot be shaken. So do not rush this process. Do not fear the quiet. Every moment you choose peace, heaven applauds. Every time you withhold reaction, the heavens record it as revelation. You are walking through holy fire, and the flames are not here to consume you. They are here to crown you. You will emerge refined, radiant, and ready. This is not the end. It is the becoming. The silence is your sanctuary, the stillness your strength, the peace your weapon. You are not waiting for victory. You are walking in it. The test is almost complete. The old identity is burning away, and what will remain is gold. And when the final test of this day comes, when words rise around you like waves against a rock, remember who you are. Remember that you were never called to explain destiny to those still wrestling with doubt. You were called to walk with quiet certainty, to trust that what God begins in silence, He completes in power. Your stillness is not retreat, it is reign. You are standing in divine alignment, and heaven is watching. Be still. Be steady. The moment you stop reacting to every sound but God's, you will discover the voice that leads you forward. And in that moment, chosen one, you will know you have passed through fire and come out shining. The silence was never empty. It was sacred. It was strength. It was the sound of heaven within you. When the silence finally softens and the long night breaks, there is no thunder, no grand announcement from the heavens, no blinding spectacle to mark the shift. Yet everything within you knows something eternal has turned. You wake and the world feels different, not because it changed, but because you did. The very air carries a stillness that mirrors your spirit. The tension that once knotted your chest is gone, replaced by a calm certainty that can only come after surrender. You realize now that the testing ground was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to define you. The divine never wastes pain, and nothing you endured was without purpose. Every delayed answer, every unseen battle, every misunderstood silence was a thread in a tapestry of transformation that only heaven could weave. As you move through the day, ordinary sounds begin to shimmer with meaning. The breeze brushing through trees feels like breath upon your soul. The sun resting on your face seems to whisper, "You made it through." The divine speaks not always through thunder, but through subtlety, through quiet confirmations and gentle signs that align perfectly when your eyes are open. You start to see the fingerprints of grace on things you once thought were coincidences. That stranger's kindness, that door that closed right before another opened, that painful goodbye that cleared the path for peace, all of it fits now. Every piece that once felt random reveals itself as deliberate. The puzzle that once seemed cruel now gleams with order. And for the first time, you don't just believe in divine timing, you live it. It is then that the revelation deepens, the realization that you were not merely being prepared for a moment, but being transformed into one. You are no longer waiting for breakthrough. You have become the breakthrough. The wisdom you carry, the peace that surrounds you, the discernment that guides your every move. These are not gifts given to the untested. They are the rewards of endurance, the fruits of patience, the marks of one who has walked through fire and learned to smile in the smoke. You no longer chase after answers, because you've learned that the divine speaks loudest when you are most still. The questions that once haunted you now dissolve in the quiet certainty that everything unfolds as it should. The people who cross your path will sense this shift even if they cannot name it. They will feel the weight of your presence, not because of status or title, but because of serenity. The peace you radiate will disarm those still bound by chaos. Your calm will speak louder than arguments ever could. Where once you sought to convince, now you simply exist in truth, and that truth becomes its own testimony. You are no longer trying to be understood, for you have discovered that the divine does not require explanation. You have traded performance for presence, striving for surrender. This is the mark of maturity. Not how loudly you proclaim your faith, but how quietly you embody it. As the day unfolds, you will find yourself walking through places that once carried memories of pain. Yet instead of grief, you feel gratitude. The echoes of old wounds no longer ache. They remind you of how far you've come. You begin to see that forgiveness was never about others deserving it. It was about you deserving peace. You were never called to carry the weight of what they did. You were called to rise above it. And in that rising, you discover that nothing anyone did to you can outweigh what God is doing within you. The ashes that once marked your sorrow now crown you in beauty. You are living proof that pain, when surrendered, becomes power. And as the light of this new season unfolds, the divine begins to reveal why the delay was necessary. You could not enter this moment until your heart had learned stillness, because destiny cannot dwell in turmoil. The promises that were once withheld were never punishment, they were preservation. Heaven was waiting for your spirit to match the weight of your calling. Had the blessing arrived earlier, it would have crushed you. Now, refined and rooted, you can hold it without trembling. The delay was not denial, it was preparation. What seemed like divine distance was actually divine protection. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every season of silence was a shield keeping you from premature exposure. And now, because you endured, the release will not be partial. It will be perfect. This is the mystery of divine timing. It unfolds when the heart has learned to rest. You no longer beg for signs, because your life itself has become one. You are the living evidence that faith works in silence, that obedience births outcomes, that surrender is not weakness, but wisdom. Every step you take now carries authority, not born of pride, but of presence. You speak less, yet your words carry more weight. You move slower, yet your steps create ripples. You no longer chase opportunities, they find you, drawn to the light of peace you carry. For when heaven crowns you, favor follows you. And so, chosen one, the divine calls you into a new rhythm, not of striving, but of flowing. You have graduated from reaction to revelation. You are no longer tossed by the waves of circumstance. You are anchored in eternal calm. You understand now that storms are not meant to destroy ships that know their anchor. And your anchor is not in people or plans or outcomes. It is in presence. The awareness that even when nothing moves, God does. You are learning to walk in rhythm with the unseen, to move when moved by spirit, to speak only when words are guided by grace. This is divine maturity, not being driven by emotion, but led by alignment. As the hours pass, the world around you will begin to respond differently. Situations that once drained you will dissolve effortlessly. Conversations that once required explanation will resolve without argument. Doors that refuse to open will swing wide, not because you pushed harder, but because you waited longer. This is the reward of restraint. When heaven sees that you will not run ahead of its timing, it entrusts you with acceleration. The same hands that held you back will now propel you forward. The same silence that once tested you now amplifies you. The peace you fought for becomes the platform you stand on. In that moment of realization, gratitude floods your spirit. You see how every hidden season was holy. Every unanswered prayer was answered differently. Every loss was a lesson in disguise. You remember the tears that watered the soil of your becoming, and understand that nothing was wasted. Not one pain, not one pause, not one lonely night. Heaven used it all. The delays carved patience, the disappointments forged discernment, the isolation refined your identity. You are not who you were, and that is the miracle. The divine didn't just change your situation, it changed you. Now the world feels smaller, not because it has shrunk, but because you have expanded. You can no longer fit into conversations built on fear, gossip, or envy. You crave depth. You crave stillness. You crave purpose. The trivial no longer tempts you. You find joy not in noise, but in knowing. You begin to understand that peace is not found in the absence of chaos, but in the mastery of inner calm. The greatest freedom is not control over others, but over self. And in that realization, a quiet smile forms, for you finally see what heaven was doing all along. The divine never promised ease, it promised endurance. It never promised perfection, it promised presence. And you, chosen one, have discovered that presence is enough. You have walked through the wilderness of waiting, and now you stand at the edge of fulfillment. The promise is no longer ahead of you, it is within you. Every breath you take echoes with the rhythm of destiny. Every step you make shakes the dust of the past from your feet. You are no longer chasing miracles, you have become one. As twilight descends and the day comes full circle, you stand still, watching the sun sink beneath the horizon. The same sky that once seemed indifferent now feels alive, as if it too bears witness to your becoming. You close your eyes, not to escape, but to embrace. You breathe in deeply, and the air tastes like peace. This is what victory feels like. Not noise, not celebration, but serenity. The divine has completed its work in silence, and now the silence sings. And as darkness settles, you hear the whisper, the same voice that called you at the beginning, now gentler, yet stronger. You see now, don't you? You were never waiting on me. I was waiting on you. To see, to trust, to become. The words resonate through your spirit, like light through water, filling every corner of your being. And in that moment, tears fall, not from pain, but from knowing. You have crossed the threshold. You have endured the fire, passed the test, and stepped into the fullness of peace. The night no longer feels uncertain. It feels sacred. You finally understand that the silence was not punishment. It was preparation for this exact peace. You lift your head, eyes glimmering with reflection, and smile. You are no longer asking what comes next, because you finally know the truth. You are what comes next. Heaven has written your name upon a new dawn, and every step from here carries the fragrance of fulfillment. The sacred threshold has been crossed, and the chosen one walks forward, crowned not in noise, but in knowing. The silence has spoken, and it has declared you ready.